together to talk about Dynasty, so if we could keep it on task, that would be wonderful. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony for some opening thoughts, and we're going to open the lines for your questions. Tony, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jim. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited about this pay-per-view. I think AEW Dynasty is going to be an amazing show. It should be a great weekend. We're going to Jim Woodcock's hometown, and this whole week is probably the closest I've ever had to a hometown loop. Driving through I-74, going west from Indianapolis through Champaign to Peoria, and then heading to St. Louis. So it'll be great. And like Jim said, St. Louis is an amazing wrestling town with a great history, and hopefully we can do something to continue that great tradition of pro wrestling in the Gateway City. Great show. Thank you all for coming to talk about the show today. Answer as many questions as I can, and hopefully some of you will be joining us Sunday at the pay-per-view also. And if I don't get to your question today, hopefully I'll see you there, and I'll try to take everybody's questions, anybody who comes to the show. And with that, Jim, let's start talking about AEW Dynasty, please.
That sounds wonderful. So we're going to start with Dominic D'Angelo from adfreeshows.com, and after Dominic, Jason Powell from ProWrestling.net will be next. Dominic, you are up.
Hey, Dom.
Hey, so looking forward to Dynasty this weekend. Should be a good show. The card looks very stacked. Wanted to get your thoughts on the big topic throughout the past couple weeks of the airing of that footage of All In and lead to the Bucks and FTR going here. I wanted to get your personal opinion on thinking about, do you understand, it was kind of universally panned across online and everything like that, and you kind of see some of that reception going on, I'm sure. Do you kind of understand that criticism, or where's your head kind of at when it comes to airing that footage and making that decision?
After the ratings came in, felt like when TBS called me and told me, good job, you have to remember that I'm responsible for everybody's jobs in this company. And it is really important for us to please the network. And TBS was really happy with that show and that performance. That's the most important thing. And our fan feedback on the show that we got, the rating is the number one source of fan feedback in the end, the network. And they were incredibly pleased. It was over 400,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demographic. And that was a strong performance. And that is how TBS judges the show, and how TBS judges the show is the most important metric I have for the performance. And then the fan reception last night, we had an amazing crowd. The fans were rabid. They were really excited. They were red hot, in particular for that match involving the Young Bucks. FTR got a big chance, and I think people are really excited to see the Young Bucks teaming up this weekend with Okada to take on Pac and FTR and get a preview of that big ladder match at Dynasty. I'm very much excited about it. I do think that what we did last week added a lot of intrigue to this match, and I'm very excited for the Dynasty pay-per-view. I think it's going to be a great pay-per-view, and I'm very happy about how we got it.
Thank you very much, Matt. Jason Powell from ProWrestling.net will be next, followed by Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics. Jason, you are up.
Scenario in which you would step down as head of creative and hire a booker to run AEW, or do you consider your position to be permanent?
That's a great question. I would certainly, at some point, we have to see where we're at. I think with all positions, nobody lasts forever, and eventually that's something, with any position in any of the organizations I'm in, that will be a reality. I think whether it's the Jaguars or Fulham or AEW or True Media, I won't be here forever. So, it's definitely one of the highlights of my life, being able to be involved in these shows, work on these shows, and do creative planning. And I'm having more fun than ever right now. Really loved last night's show. I thought last night was a really strong go-home Dynamite leading into this pay-per-view. And, I take it year to year, moment to moment, and really loving what we're doing right now. I'm only 41 years old, and I feel like the company's in a really strong place. And some of the greatest wrestlers in the world are very loyal to me personally, and I'm really very proud of that. And hopefully can continue to do my best to repay them. And I think right now the company's in a very strong place. We just had a valuation, I understand, of $2 billion placed on AEW today for a sports startup. The fastest rising sports startup of all time, and the most successful sports startup in the world since the American Football League, the AFL, that later merged with the NFL. I don't see that same future for us, but I do love the comparison, and I think the numbers are quite real. And frankly, the story is very exciting for AEW. That look, we are a major player in the sports scene, and it's going to be a really big year for our company coming up with our media rights renewal, and it's the most important thing right now for wrestlers and the staff and everybody that works at AEW, and for our fans and everybody that follows AEW. And another really important aspect of this is the pay-per-view growth. We've grown the business, and last year we expanded the pay-per-view calendar, and we had our, by far, biggest year ever on pay-per-view, and we expect it to continue this year. We saw the average go up last year while we increased shows. This year expanding the calendar, and the expansion is this show. This is the added show, Dynasty, the one that happens this weekend. And this is a stack card. It's one of my favorite cards we've ever put together, and the build we've done to get here, there have been some tremendous moments. Last night was a really good go-home show. And on these calls, these calls are usually on the Thursday after the go-home Dynamite, and we've actually spent a decent amount of time. When I say we, the collection of us that are often on these calls, myself and a lot of you, the top wrestling media, we spent a lot of time talking about about the science of the go-home show and the different ways they're put together and what, I think this was one of our best received go-home shows we've ever done. And this was really, for me, it's always exciting, and there's a risk when you add a new event, change the calendar, do something like creating a new show that is AEW Dynasty. And so far, the build, the card, it's all very exciting, and it's all shaping up for a great event this weekend on Sunday on pay-per-view. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics will go next, and I will follow Brandon with a write-in from Kimmy Sokol from Brandon. You are up.
It's always free time. I was wondering if you could clear up something that was raised by Punk's interview a few weeks ago. He said that he personally paid for all of the medical expenses related to his 2022 triceps injury. I was wondering, can you say if there's any truth to that? And more broadly, is there a policy that AEW pays for medical expenses related to injuries that happen at AEW?
We typically do pay those expenses. I'd have to look into that. I can't say for sure. It doesn't sound right to me. If that is the case, then I reimburse them. Honestly, I didn't think that was the case, and it doesn't sound right. So I would have to look into that. That's a good question, but typically we do cover those medical expenses, especially for something that occurred in the ring, as that did. So I would have to look into that, but no, I'm not sure about that. I can't say for sure. Thanks.
Thanks, Brandon. I'm going to go with the write-in here from Kimmy Sokol from the Pop Break, and then Amy Nemedy from WrestleJoy. You will follow Tony's response to Kimmy, who asked, this weekend, Thunder Rosa is going after the title. She never truly lost. How would you assess her comeback, and what is your excitement for the match this weekend?
I'm very excited about Thunder Rosa versus Toni Storm, the Thunderstorm, the Battle of Thunderstorm for the AEW Women's World Championship. It's been great having Thunder Rosa back. She's been out with an injury for a very long time, and we weren't sure when she was going to be able to come back. And it's been awesome to return to Thunder Rosa, for involvement in this story. I think she's had some strong matches since her return, and what a great promo last Saturday on Collision. And she got involved again, smearing the lipstick on Toni Storm at Dynamite last night in Indianapolis. It was a great event, and it was a great moment, and I'm very excited for that match. I think Thunder Rosa is one of our top stars in the women's division, going back many years, and it's built a great rivalry with Timeless Toni Storm. I think Timeless Toni Storm has been a great champion so far, and this would be not only a great challenge and a great challenger, but a really, really important title fight on a great show this weekend on Dynasty this Sunday. I'm very excited for that match. I think it's a great card, and that is a great rivalry, Thunder Rosa versus Timeless Toni Storm. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kimmy. Amy Nemedy from WrestleJoy is next, and after Amy will be Liam Crowley from Comic Book. Amy.
Incredible Dynasty card, and I'm particularly excited about the women's championship matches that are on the show. But I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up a developing story in the news this week with AEW and the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission. Can you share your thoughts on OSAC putting out a warning for having Nyla Rose wrestle in the state of Oklahoma? Thank you for your time.
Yes. Well, I would like to talk about that story with the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission and the warning they issued against AEW when we featured Nyla Rose on the show in Oklahoma City last December. I was really surprised by this. It was not something I was expecting, and of course, I was disappointed by the commission's position and by that warning. I don't think we did anything wrong. I'm really, really shocked by it. I don't think there should be discrimination against transgender wrestlers or transgender people at all. And, they have rights. And to that end, I absolutely stand by Nyla Rose. AEW stands behind Nyla Rose and all transgender people who want to play sports. And this is wrestling. There was nothing wrong with it. Nyla Rose is a great wrestler. She's been a great world champion. And I love Nyla. I love working with Nyla. She's been a great part of our history. She was the first transgender world champion ever. And she's a great part of the AEW Together program. She does a ton for the community. She's a great person with a great heart and very supportive of the other wrestlers. One of the funniest people on social media. I personally have nominated Nyla to TBS for the best social media presence on more than one occasion over the years. And she's an AEW original. She's been part of this team since 2019, going back to the very first year of AEW, the first shows, the first Dynamite. And look at everything Nyla's accomplished. And, to just put that label on her, that's not right. She's much more than that. And, she's a great athlete. And I hope everybody can look at Nyla and see that she's a great wrestler, a great person, and she deserves the same chances as everybody else. And if the AEW locker room, which consists of people from all over the world, all kinds of different backgrounds, all different beliefs, if everybody in the locker room can embrace Nyla, I would hope that the Oklahoma Commission could do the same thing. So I'd also like to mention, speaking of Dynasty, Nyla is working with one of our new pay-per-view partners for the domestic digital presentation of AEW Dynasty, PPV.com. Nyla is going to be a special guest host for the PPV.com AEW Dynasty event. I'm very happy about that. We were thrilled when she accepted the invitation weeks ago, and we're all excited about all the different ways you can watch this pay-per-view. This is going to be the most widely available event for digital distribution domestically ever in the history of AEW. And for AEW Dynasty, there's a lot of choices. Of course, Nyla's going to be there on PPV.com. We have great providers with Triller TV, YouTube, and our longtime base at Bleacher Report. We really appreciate Bleacher Report and Warner Brothers Discovery working with AEW to make sure our fans have a lot of options to watch the pay-per-view. And I'm glad Nyla's going to be hosting that. That's something that's been in the works for a while. I think the world of Nyla, and that's how I feel about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Liam Crowley from Comic Book is next, and Liam will be followed by Samantha Shipman from the Daily DDT. Liam, you are next.
Hi, Tony. Thanks for the time today. I was super stoked to see Jon Moxley kick off Dynamite last night as the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Moving forward with his schedule, I'm just curious about his presence on AEW TV, how that will be impacted by his New Japan commitments, and also on that note, do you have the sanction to decide if and when he can defend that title on AEW programming or AEW pay-per-views, or is that something you need to get approved by New Japan first?
Well, it's really exciting to have Jon Moxley back in AEW and back in AEW as the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. It's truly a lifelong dream for Jon Moxley, and it's a dream for me to have a great IWGP Heavyweight Champion here on Dynamite. It's a dream come true, and Jon, whether it's Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, he's been on all the shows. He's an AEW original dating back to our very first show 5 years ago, and Jon Moxley's a fan favorite. He's a great leader and a great world champion for any company, and it's so special to have Mox working with AEW and New Japan and as the world champion here. And absolutely, it's a great partnership between AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's a championship that is sanctioned by New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Ghetto is the matchmaker there. We share a person who is very close to both of us. Rocky Romero is the vice president in both companies and is a great intermediary and partner for both of us. And we work together very closely. And to sanction the championship, that is Ghetto's decision. If the championship is defended in AEW, then it's a mutual decision. And whenever Mox will be out there defending the title, whatever the future of Mox as the champion in New Japan is, we look forward to working really closely with New Japan Pro Wrestling on these dates and on this amazing journey and this great milestone that Jon Moxley is the IWGP World Champion now. It's great.
Thank you very much. Liam, Samantha Shipman from the Daily DDT is next, and I'm going to follow Samantha with a write-in from Jeremy Housewright from Review STL. Samantha?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, sorry about that. I want to go back to Amy Nody's question for a moment, and you gave a wonderful response about Nyla. With the warning, will this keep you from running shows in Oklahoma or other states that have transgender or have bans on transgender athletes? And if you do decide to perform in these states, will you have Nyla perform and risk whatever warning or fines that they may impose on you?
All I can say is we have a great plan for shows in 2024 and 2025. We've got a great new team working on routing, and we'll take all this into consideration. I definitely am treating this as a developing story. It's kind of described by this, but definitely want to do our best to support the fans across America and all over the world and bring AEW wrestling everywhere. We have great fans. We have great fans in Oklahoma that are important to us and great fans all over the country. And so we'll do anything we can to support those fans. So it's something we're going to have to think about, but it's a fair question. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Samantha. Here's a write-in, Tony, from Jeremy Housewright from Review STL. And once you've responded to Jeremy, Bill Pritchard from Wrestling Zone will be next. Jeremy's question: given the pro wrestling history that St. Louis has, do you think it's fitting to have such an instant classic like Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay here in St. Louis?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question about Bryan? I'm not sure. I might have missed 1 second of the audio there, Jim.
Sure. Jeremy asked the same question I would ask, and that is, given the pro wrestling history here in St. Louis, do you think it's fitting that such an instant classic is ahead for us here with Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay?
What a great question. It does sound like you wrote that one yourself, Jim. Well, it's a great question. I'm very excited for AEW Dynasty this weekend. It's going to be a great pay-per-view for all the fans across the world to watch this Sunday, and we're going to have an amazing live crowd on hand in St. Louis at the Chapis Arena for this amazing event, and certainly people around the world are talking about this dream match, Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay. I cannot wait for this match. I'm so excited about Danielson versus Ospreay on Sunday at pay-per-view. It's going to be a sight to be seen. It's going to be a great match, and Will Ospreay locked up with the American Dragon Bryan Danielson. In my opinion, these are two of the greatest wrestlers I've ever seen in my entire life, and to have a first-time matchup like this, it's really, really thrilling. It's been a sports-based presentation. We've had a lot of great rivalries developing in many different ways, and I think that's been one of the really cool things. The build to a lot of the different matches on the card has been very different. This has really been more of a pure sports-focused build to get to Ospreay versus Danielson, because this is a real wrestling dream match, and I think that's taken center stage. So there haven't been as many brawls between these guys, and the presentation has been different than a lot of the other matches on the card. card, and I think that each of the big matches has its own unique presentation for the most part. And I think that's